All right, so I'm going to go live on YouTube and Zoom. So we are now live.
All right, thank you.
Hey, Matthew.
All right, we're going to call the Board of Education meeting of Plainville Board of Education meeting of February 8th to order. And the first item on our agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. And so Mrs. St. Lawrence, will you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance
To the flag
of the United States of America, for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible,
liberty,
liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. I just want to confirm what board members we have with us this evening and see if everyone is here. I see Crystal, Ms. St. Lawrence, Ms. Martinez, Ms. Wells, Mr. White, Ms. Palmieri, Ms. Hardy, Mr. Davenport's here, and Ms. Peterson. So I believe that gives us a full slate. So I just want to double check. Sometimes when I'm doing these virtual meetings, I forget to do that and make note of the fact that everyone's present. So with that, we're going to go into our special presentations, and the superintendent has a couple of things that he would like to do tonight. Mr. LePage.
Yes, hello. Hey, Matthew. So I'm going to start out with a very special presentation for a good friend of mine. Matthew Schnoffer is with us tonight, and we're really happy to see him here. You know, I've stayed in touch with Matthew, and his mom, Danielle Schnoffer, works for the district as well. And just, you know, we started connecting a little bit more when we found out that we had a common love of the Patriots and Tom Brady and, of course, Gronk. And I see the shirt. So, you know, we had a lot of fun going back and forth, and Mom sent, you know, some pictures on PJ Day for the kids. Matthew has been an avid supporter of that, and showing off the Tom Brady PJs and the Patriots gear. And then just through our communications, you know, I've really I've been impressed with Matthew, and I want to tell you something that board members I think will appreciate a great deal about Matthew is that Mom walked in on Matthew one night and he was watching TV, and Mom was wondering, you know, what's going on here? What are you watching? And Matthew was watching a Board of Education meeting. So he's really into watching the local the meetings and the politics and all the things that are happening, and you know, on behalf of the school district. So he's a big fan, and you know, just a great citizen. So Matthew, I'm gonna get this award over to you over at the high school. Matthew's over here, but Matthew's getting this award for outstanding leadership, and it says Plainville Board of Education hereby honors Matthew Schnoffer. He's officially recognized and congratulated for his community spirit, positivity, and who is worthy of admiration by all of us. So,
thank you.
That's awesome. Keep rocking the Brady pajamas. We had a big
yeah, he just loves to watch the Board of Ed meetings. He watches all of them on YouTube.
Well, I think you might be the only one, Matthew, but no, I'm sure there are a lot out there.
Somehow he subscribed to Kevin Ross's YouTube page, and he gets it all.
Yeah, I've got a subscriber.
You're the one. All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Matthew. Later. I'll see you over to you at school, okay? It won't be tomorrow because we're remote tomorrow. You're first, you know, but I'll see you maybe on Wednesday, okay?
Say bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye, Matthew.
He's awesome. So I thought that was, I really wanted to acknowledge Matthew for his spirit and his citizenship. The next part of the agenda is the Portrait Pioneers Award, and we had several more nominations, and it's always hard to choose, but I wanted to acknowledge two individuals tonight. The first being Mr. Jeffrey Smedick, who is well, he's done so many things in town that I think everybody knows him. Coach, volunteering at different events, just attending events because he's really so invested in this community. He's well loved by everybody, and Jeff's, we're fortunate to have Jeff on our social studies staff at the high school. But I wanted to, what I liked about Jeff, Mr. Smedick's nominations were that they came from all students. So, and this is Mr. Smedick's first year in the classroom as a teacher at the high school. I have that correct, right, Mr. Smedick? The official first year, or is it?
Yeah, yep, official first year.
So thanks for joining us tonight. I'm going to just read what the students had shared about you. And, this can't be used for any extra credit in your class or anything like that. That wouldn't be right. But so I just want to let you know that. So Kaylin Aracho wrote about Mr. Smedick. This teacher is a great teacher. He is funny and very kind to his students. So, we talk about the importance of relationships, SEL, and social and emotional learning, and supporting our students. And, just to hear that, these aren't long like my speeches, but they're powerful in what they say. The next one is from, let's see, the next one was from Kate Lyman, and she wrote, Mr. Smedick is a very good teacher. He's able to teach the subject of history and make his students, including me, really enjoy what we are currently learning. You can tell that Mr. Smedick has a true passion for teaching and for history. So you hear that passion coming through in what you're doing, the relationship, and again, making the learning, relevant and enjoyable for the students. And then finally, we had another one, and I'm sure there are others that were thinking the same thing, but didn't make the effort to nominate Mr. Smedick. But this one is from Sailor Tompkins, and Sailor wrote, this is the shortest, but makes class fun and chill. So, that says it all. We all need to chill a little bit, I think, especially now. But, just making that learning environment that students feel supported, feel comfortable, are enjoying learning, it says a lot. So I just wanted to acknowledge Mr. Smedick and thank him and you have your award you're going to get as well, Mr. Smedick. So I don't know if you can even see it, but so you exemplify the models and characteristics of the Plainville Community Schools Portrait of the Graduate, which includes being mindful, resilient, communicative, innovative, and collaborative. So, that's something to be proud of, and I appreciate it. So thank you, Mr. Smedick. And I'm going to move on to our next Portrait Pioneer.
Thank
Portrait Pioneer winner. And I do want to acknowledge Mr. Smedick he's been in the district in so many different positions, student support positions, and just coaching, assistant coaching, just helping out in any way he can. So, I thought the award was very fitting of all the things and, the resiliency that you've shown in sticking with Plainville and really staying with us. I know it's been a long road, and we're happy to have you, and you're doing a great job. So I also wanted to, the next Portrait Pioneer winner. Now this one was interesting. And, I have to acknowledge, I think Mr. Batchelder is with us. Are you there, Mr. Batchelder? I can only see a few of you across the top of my screen. I think Mr. Batchelder is here.
I'm here.
Looking good, Mr. B. So I received this nomination, on behalf of the Wheeler staff and faculty. So I won't even say who nominated Mr. Batchelder, but what I'm going to say is that, because I don't think that person wanted to stand out as an individual, but it's from the entire faculty, and they sent out basically a Google form to all submit a number of comments about Mr. Batchelder as a leader. And I also had a nomination from a parent, so I'll read that one first. Mrs. Tice, Rebecca Tice wrote, always goes above and beyond for his scholars, makes them feel welcome and accepted. The scholars have so much fun around him, whether it's listening to a silly story, telling funny jokes, or just his energetic way that he interacts with each and every one of them, all while keeping them engaged and safe. So that was from Mrs. Tice. So coming from a parent, of course, is wonderful. And then from your staff, I will say that this was submitted by Megan Ray. she didn't mind being submitted, but she wanted it to be, it's from everybody on, you know, so only one person can submit it, but she's an instructional resource teacher at Wheeler. But there are comments from, so I'm going to do my best to go through this as quickly as I can, but they're all great comments. We believe Andrew Batchelder should be recognized as a portrait pioneer because when a remote C family didn't realize they could return to in-person learning due to a language barrier, Andrew called home along with the translator to remedy the situation. He explained that the model could be changed when the family requested, which they weren't aware of. He shared that he missed seeing, that's in quotes, the student at school. So the very next day, the student returned to Wheeler. The next one, Andrew has gone above and beyond to make sure remote students have the materials they need to be successful. One example was when Andrew drove to a student's home to hand deliver to the parent a printout of the student's schedule and materials. This act shows the length Andrew will go to make sure remote learners are participating with our synchronous teaching and have their materials. The next one, when a remote C student's attendance to Google Meets was becoming less and less, Andrew went to the student's house and introduced himself and spoke with my student and his parents outside to encourage him to log on and complete his work. Since that visit, his attendance has been much better. Andrew has also made my transition into a new school go very smoothly and has made me feel welcome here. The next one, Andrew always goes above and beyond to make our school the best we can be. He uses a collaborative approach and has made what could have been a difficult transition feel positive and supported during distance learning in the hybrid model. I also admire his visibility within our building as he is always interacting with students and staff. The next one, Andrew views Wheeler students as both academic learners and individual little people. He responds to both their learning needs as well as their personal needs. He has purchased coats for students needing them and also provided glasses for a student unable to afford them, all from his personal resources. During our renovation, he was a master juggler. Requests were made for materials, equipment, safety, and comfort measures, and he responded to each very quickly, thoughtfully, and effectively. Andrew continually expresses his appreciation for all staff contributions with multiple verbal and often written sentiments of gratitude, which serves to strengthen the morale and team spirit of Wheeler School. The next one, Andrew is in the midst of all chaos in this world, is always thinking of his Wheeler family, both staff and students, with all that is on his mind, meetings, decisions, coverages, etc. He always takes the time to stop and greet students and staff on a one-to-one basis and make sure we have everything we need. He's always seeking ideas to help the progress of student learning and considering those who are an important part of this progress. He has a lot going on, as we all do, but have seen him manage and be flexible in ways that are above and beyond most individuals. There's a few more. Andrew always supports his teachers no matter what. I feel extremely supported by him when there is a situation I need help with. I appreciate that I know I can always go to him for anything. Andrew's always extremely caring. He cares about his students and staff. Numerous times I've seen him help out someone, offer food if we're staying late for a meeting, or just give a kind word about something he saw in the classroom. He's a great principal. The next one, Andrew's always willing to go the extra mile, support us in any way he can. He often says, let me know what you need and I will make it happen. He's also very passionate about Wheeler School and making it safe, fun, and successful environment for all students. Andrew provided a remote learner with his own daughter's books, magazines, so the student would have more engaging texts to read while at home. Another one, Andrew's passionate about the Wheeler community. He's a caring leader who would do anything in his power to help students, staff, and teachers. He works hard to be sure all are successful. I admire his collaborative approach and sense of humor. He's a main reason why Wheeler School is like family. The next one, Andrew drops everything and gives us his full attention to any comment or questions his faculty and staff have. He wants to help out in any way possible so all can be successful. I feel comfortable approaching it with anything that comes up. And the last one, despite all the new changes in scheduling, curriculum, technology, and just teaching during a pandemic in general, Andrew remains positive through it all. He makes sure we have the support that we need to do our best and always reminds us that we're doing a great job, even when we have those days when we feel like we're not doing enough for our students. So I just want to wrap up and, I know a lot of these comments or many of these comments could be said by, I think our principal team is incredible across the district, but, Andrew, the comments from your staff, your peers, Just seeing the recognition that was planned, with the support of a great team at Wheeler for John Procco, who retired after almost 43 years on Friday, and all the fanfare. And despite the pandemic, I just want to thank you. And on behalf of your Wheeler family, I just want to congratulate you on your Portrait Pioneer, because those are definitely the qualities of our Portrait of the Graduate. So congratulations.
Thank you, Steve.
You look nice tonight, all dressed up for the big award, I see.
I did.
All right, congratulations.
Thanks a lot. I'm grateful to be the principal there. I could tell you that. I'm grateful
I know
to
you
work
are.
with Plainville for all of you. So thanks.
All right, Chairwoman Tyrell, that concludes our special presentations this evening.
All right, thank you. And congratulations to Jeff and Andrew and Matthew. I think Matthew went off he's probably at home watching us though.
He's going to now, or on the recording. So awesome.
Oh, that's funny. So our next item on the agenda is approval of minutes, for which we have 7 sets because we were a little busy this month, I guess. Would someone like to make a motion for approval of minutes?
I make a motion
All right,
for
Deb,
approval of the minutes for the 7 sets.
all right,
Second.
second. Somebody want to make a second?
Second.
All right, second by Lori. All right, thank you. So are there any corrections or anything that needs to be changed, or anything that people see that does not look correct? All right, seeing none, I'm going to ask all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, any opposed? All right, it's like we are unanimous in our minutes. And that brings us to citizens' comments. Where are you, Kev? I can't see in my, oh, there you are. Mr. Ross, is there anything that came through from citizens' comments?
Not that I've seen. I have one person in the waiting room, Mrs. Rogers. I think she's just monitoring, but I'll ask her if she wants to talk. Ms. Rogers, do you have any citizens' comments?
I do not.
Thank you.
All right. And so that brings us to our council liaison. Ms. Puglisi, it's nice to see you. I thought I saw that you had a meeting earlier, so I figured you might not be here, but.
Oh, well, thanks. Yeah, we had a special meeting with the Office of Consumer Counsel, just to let you know. It had to do with the upcoming rate increase request from Valley Water. So we were getting a little bit of advice as to how to proceed, what we should do in terms of preparing any documents we wish to submit and that kind of thing. But I hurried them along and said, I've got another one, we need to go. And they were about done. So thank you. We're all set. I do have some information to share since our last meeting. I'll make it quick. The town council, as you know, has been deliberating about developing the White Oak property in the center of town. We did receive 2 proposals for the development of that property. One of the proposals was from D'Amato Myers, who proposed continuing the current industrial use by relocating their construction businesses to the site. The second proposal was from Manafort et al., who proposed a mixed-use development, including apartments, commercial space, industrial space, public parking, and a park area adjacent to the Pequabic River. The next item of business we had to take care of was to negotiate a memorandum of understanding with one of the 2 developers. So that is a project that is ongoing. The council is working to move it forward. So we'll have more information as that moves along. The next piece of information, which I thought was something to share with the board, is the town assessor, Anne Marie Herring, finalized the October 2020 grand list. According to the town assessor, the grand list increased by $17 million, or 1.2%. This increase is higher than last year, which was 1.12%, and more than double the increase of 2018, which was 0.56%, and 2017, which was 0.57%. There are three major categories in the grand list. One of them is real estate. They increased by 0.58% or $6.7 million. Motor vehicle assessments increased by 6.8 million or 4.54%. And personal property assessments increased by 3.5 million or 3.30%. Based on the current mill rate of 34.62, the new grand list will generate approximately 578,000 in additional tax revenue. That is very good news indeed as we move forward through our budget deliberations. So we are happy about that. We also approved an extension of our recyclables processing agreement. We are currently using Murphy Road Recycling of Enfield. Murphy Road also operates a recycling center located in Berlin. We got some favorable rates, which previously we were being charged $83 per ton, but we're looking at a possible rate of $70.50 per ton. So as you may know, this was an area that the town council had some very grave concerns about over the past couple of years, as recycling, the whole business of recycling worldwide had changed. Much of it used to be sent to China. China no longer accepts it. Therefore, we still have all these recycling issues that are going to have to be taken care of one way or the other. So things are improving. We're not there yet, but hopefully we'll get to a better position in the next few years. So as always, that will affect our budget going forward. As of our last report, which was last week, the positivity rate of COVID-19 had decreased to 3.64% in Connecticut. Although some experts were concerned with regard to a new mutated strain that may appear to be more contagious. Connecticut is currently in phase 1B of its COVID-19 vaccination program. Under that program, individuals over the age of 75 can receive the vaccine. And soon, and I believe this just happened this week, individuals between the ages of 65 to 74 can also apply for vaccinations. And anybody that's between the ages of 16 and 64 who have underlying health conditions can also apply to get vaccinated. I will say that Connecticut is moving its program along, although Plainville's vaccination rate as of last week for the 75-year-old grouping was only 25%. That is a fairly low number, considering the fact that, you know, this has been ongoing now for that group for almost a month. There have been issues with some of our seniors trying to get through on a phone line, although phone lines have been expanded, so that's a good thing. There's more phone lines available. The hours are longer. There's an option to register through the VAMS website, which is the CDC website. But, you know, some folks just aren't comfortable with the technology to do that. So we're trying to work through some ideas as to how we can help some of our senior citizens access an easy way to get through and get them an appointment, get them vaccinated, and get them taken care of. So that is not just unique to Plainville. It is statewide, countrywide. It's a problem. But hopefully as more sites open up and more people become adept at registering and more phone lines and the such are available, that will start to take care of itself. So that is my report for tonight, Madam Chair. I will take questions if anybody has any for me.
Any questions for Ms. Puglisi?
Oh, one more thing, Chairman Terrell. I just wanted to let the board know that we have set our budget deliberation dates. They're going to be March 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 16th, and 17th. They will begin at 6:30 p.m. I am not sure which one of those dates would be the Board of Ed, but we will have we'll have updated schedule at our next council meeting. But those are our dates so far to discuss our budget.
Okay, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
And that brings us to the superintendent's report. So, Mr. LePage, you're back in.
Thank you, Mrs. Central. Thank you, Chairwoman Puglisi. So I'm happy to share. We have an exciting superintendent's report. We'll start with the Mascot Project, which is something that Jill O'Brien is here to tell you about. And I won't steal her thunder, but I thought it was a pretty cool project that she ran with her adult ed program. And as with everything that Mrs. O'Brien does, she does it at a high level and runs a tremendous program here that's a benefit to Plainville and surrounding residents. So, Ms. O'Brien, I turn it over to you.
Thank you. I am most grateful to be here, and I have good news to report. Plainville Adult Education has a new mascot. I'll introduce it in just a moment, but first I'd like to share how our student body and staff shaped its development. Next slide. Throughout the school year, students are provided with opportunities to engage with the college and career readiness standards, with emphasis on transferable skills obtained through the infusion of speaking and listening and writing standards in curricula. Next slide. This fall, students were asked to select an adult education mascot drawn from researching local geography, history, or indigenous wildlife, and compose a supporting video of the nomination. Prior to the activity's launch, Plainville Community Schools Director of Community Relations, Lynn Davis, delivered a program-wide presentation, Communicating Your Message with Marketing. Adult education instructors guided students along the way and submitted their best-in-class video presentations for consideration. Next slide. The Adult High School Credit Diploma Program nominated the Resourceful Black Bear, modeling essential preparation skills. Adult Basic Education, GED, and English as a Second Language students worked collaboratively on an abstract yet exceptional concept of blue sky, which is a reminder to aim high to reach goals. Next slide. Let's watch one of these presentations together now. There should be sound with this.
Apologies. I'll see if I can get the sound to work here. Hold on.
Thank you.
Can you hear it now?
Yeah.
Our class, the blue sky, is our mascot. The blue sky is a symbol of hope and strength as we reach for our dreams. The eagle's source of wisdom is his ability to soar high in the blue sky. The blue sky represents the calm after the storm. It reassures us that the storm has passed and that all is well. The blue sky stands for hope. It encourages us to climb higher and to reach our dreams and goals. I love to fly a kite into the blue sky.
In my country, the blue sky is a symbol of hope and strength. It stands for dreams to be realized.
The sky is the limit for what we can achieve.
As you can see, students gain experience. Whoops. As you can see, students gain experience researching, marketing, writing, collaborating, public speaking, and listening. Their presentation and interpersonal skills are all transferable to employment. The two final mascot concepts, the bear and the blue sky, were great on their own, but even better when combined, echoing how much stronger we are as a community when we pull our resources together. Next slide. So without further delay, here's our new mascot logo, the black bear against the blue sky. We've come to the end of our time together, but I'd like to remind you to keep an eye out for a costumed bear at future public events. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. O'Brien. I appreciate that informative and entertaining presentation by your students. I always enjoy the graduation at the end of the year. It was one of my favorite events to attend, and just the pride and the excitement from all your students in the many programs that you run. So you do a great job, and I want to thank you, and congratulations on your new mascot.
Thank you very much.
The Board of Ed to see it. So
thank you. I appreciate your time and all of your support.
thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions for Ms. O'Brien or? Hearing none, we'll go on to the middle school strategic update.
Okay.
So thank you, Ms. O'Brien.
Thank you.
So at this time, I'm going to welcome Mac Guarino and Amy Roberts and Melissa Orfatelli, the administrative trio from the middle school, Plainville, who have prepared a comprehensive and really well done presentation. I know you saw the high school's update at the last meeting, and that was excellent. So I hope you enjoy, and welcome MSP leadership team.
Thank you, Mr. LePage. I appreciate it. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Okay. So thank you once again. Every year, I love this opportunity to come and talk to you all about the middle school. Though it's going to be tough to follow that act from continuing education and adult education. That was great. I really enjoyed that. But hopefully you'll enjoy this as well. And as Mr. LePage said, this year I've asked the assistant principals to speak to you as well. Amy Roberts, who has been an assistant principal for 8 years at the middle school, and Melissa Orfatelli, who is in her 3rd year as an assistant principal, will follow me in this presentation. I'm going to start with a general overview by the numbers. The middle school opened its doors to students in 1992. It's hard to believe it's been that long. The school still looks great, though there is much to do, and that's why that date is significant, and I'll get to that in a minute. But prior to that, as you may recall, the old junior high school served just grades 7 and 8. Our elementary schools were K-6 up to that point. And again, that date is significant because, as Superintendent LePage has shared with you in prior BOE meetings, the school will be eligible after 30 years in operation in 2022 for maximum state funding opportunities for rehab as new. Currently, there are 531 students enrolled at MSP. 392 as of today are in school. 113 are remote in what we refer to as Track C, which means it was the family's choice to keep kids working remotely. The number, which we call Track E, is constantly fluctuating. There are 26 students currently there, and that's being due to being quarantined or to a COVID exposure or testing. Grade 7 is currently our largest class at 188, and you can see the breakdown for 6th and 8th grade as well. I've also included the figures for our students with diagnosed disabilities. 42 students with 504 designation, which means that we have acknowledged a diagnosed disability that impacts that student's functioning in school and may require an accommodation plan, but does not require specialized instruction. The 68 students in special education at the middle school have a disabling condition in that school environment that does require specialized instruction through an individualized education plan or IEP. On this slide, you can see the breakdown of certified and non-certified employees currently at MSP. These figures do not include custodial and cafeteria staff. So during this time of COVID restrictions, we have been operating without some of our standardized measures, and we've used in the past to rely upon and monitor student progress. There was no smarter balanced assessment last year, though there is going to be one this year. We also did not hold the PSAT in September, as we have done the past few years, because of the difficulty in getting a maximum number of students to participate during the hybrid period. We do have it scheduled now for February 24th, coming up soon, when we should be able to get most of the 8th grade class assessed. But despite this drought of standardized testing data, I do want to assure you that our departments are all very focused on collecting data on both student progress and on identifying any gaps in the curriculum that may occur due to the modifications we've had to make during this COVID period. All of our departments are continuing the use of in-house assessments, such as common benchmark assessments, unit tests, as well as computer software assessments that we have available, including with our new iReady program, which you're going to hear a little bit more about from Mrs. Orfatelli when she's up, our IXL program and Khan Academy. And we also have assessments that are built right into our SRBI process for our students with literacy and numeracy deficits. We are also continuing to gather data on our efforts with social and emotional learning in the school. And you're going to be hearing more about that from Mrs. Roberts shortly as well. And with respect to monitoring the social and emotional state of the middle school, this slide provides you with some of the areas that we have been monitoring. One of our responsibilities is to conduct risk assessments. These are assessments done on students when they demonstrate behaviors or make statements that suggest that they are in danger of harming themselves or others. Interesting, this year we've seen the number of risk assessments that we have had to conduct drop 50% to date from the same period last year. You can see those figures there. We have also increased the number of non-disciplinary contacts we have made to date by 25% this year. We've made it a practice at the middle school since I've been there for people in the office, any of the faculty and staff in the office, administrators, counselors, some school psychologists, all of us to reach out proactively rather than to wait reactively for discipline infractions. So these are non-disciplinary upfront contacts with students, and we've really been pushing a little bit harder this year and increased that number by 25%. Our staff has been working very diligently to stay in contact with both the in-school and the remote families so that no one slips through the cracks. And as a result, more than 20 remote students who were struggling to keep up at home have been brought back to an in-school program so far this year. And this is a result of some very persistent and difficult negotiations sometimes by our assistant principals, because I have to give credit where it's due, and our remote support teachers. And sometimes in conjunction with our youth service department in the town, that's Roberta Brown's department, and our school resource officer, Officer Dufresne, working with some of the families of some of these students that were reluctant to have their children return to school, though it really was the better option for them, as they're struggling kind of showed us. I'm also very pleased to say that just like the high school reported, that the discipline numbers have dropped significantly this year. Only 30 office referrals have been made to the office, and that's down from 140 for the same period last year. And 12 suspensions this year to date compared to 34 last year. It's hard to know exactly what to attribute that to, but I do have to say this improvement is probably due to several factors. One most important being that the students are simply being more cooperative as they too recognize the difficult times that we are all facing. In addition, I believe that the great work our staff is doing supporting teachers and students with their social and emotional state and learning has made a big difference. And again, you'll hear more about this from Mrs. Roberts shortly. Having fewer students in our less structured environments also helps. Because our numbers are down, as you saw from an earlier slide of students in school, hallways are less crowded and used more infrequently. Lunch is eaten in smaller separated groups. And perhaps most importantly, the buses are less crowded. back up just a second there, Kevin. As you may recall, the buses have typically been one of the areas that generate a very high number of discipline infractions at the middle school, and that has dropped tremendously this year. But whatever the reason, we administrators are very pleased to have more time to work proactively with students, teachers, and families. Next slide. These following few slides just give you some visual appreciation of the measures we continue to undertake to prevent the spread of COVID and keep students and staff safe at school. The kids have been wonderful about maintaining mask protocols with very few exceptions. Even in the physical education classes, and you can see from this slide, the two top photos are kids are playing some badminton. They're wearing their masks, staying distant, doing a great job. The lower slides show a typical classroom to the left, and to the right, that is the cafeteria at lunchtime. That really kind of makes me sad because, not all of what we're doing is it's keeping kids safe, but it isn't necessarily what we'd like to see. Lunch is a time for people to socialize, but that is also the time that COVID gets spread. So we do a pretty good job, I think a very good job at keeping kids safe in all of those learning environments, including the cafeteria. And another slide with just a couple of more pictures. We have a music class, a general music class in operation there, and a 6th grade classroom. And this slide here, this is my favorite one because it shows my favorite display case in the building. I'll give you a second to take that in. I have to thank our health teachers for putting that together. But I really like that. But the other two pictures are of kids filing into the classroom in a socially distanced manner. And finally, for me, and I'm about to turn things over to Mrs. Roberts first, who will be followed by Mrs. Orfatelli. They'll be discussing some of the actions we have been taking at the middle school to meet the board's vision. You thought I wasn't going to remember the rings, but here they are. We, of course, address all of these areas throughout the year that are on this slide, but today our presentation is going to focus on the areas I've circled in red: social and emotional learning, equity, and academic development, specifically literacy at the middle school. So at this time, I'm going to turn things over to Mrs. Roberts, who's going to talk to you about social and emotional learning and equity at the middle school.
Great. Thank you very much, Mr. Guarino, and good evening to everyone. Hopefully you could hear me okay. I am so very happy to be here this evening to discuss topics that have always been at the forefront of our focus and success at MSP. But this year in particular, social and emotional learning and well-being, as well as taking care to look at our programs through the lens of equity, has taken on a whole new level of importance. Without this work, the academic achievement and success that we strive for could not be met. Why I know this is so important? How do I know? Well, on to the next slide, Kevin. We have surveyed our staff twice so far this year regarding how they're feeling. And I will say that coming back to school in September in the hybrid model and then switching to full in-person learning in October caused stress and fear in our staff for a period of time. We asked teachers to do something unprecedented and extremely difficult, and they rose to the challenge in so many amazing and innovative ways, but also needed our support in new and different ways. And by the first time we surveyed at the beginning of November, November 2nd, we learned a lot about what they needed and how they were feeling. So the work that we do on social and emotional learning is about knowing ourselves and our feelings and how to change those. So back in November, 75% of our faculty responded to our survey about how they were feeling when they came to work each day. And about 35% of those surveyed felt discouraged, which was pretty disappointing for us. 30% felt a little better than that, 23% better, pretty even, and only 12% felt energized, motivated, and supported. We did a lot of work in between, which I'll get into in a second, but what I'm really happy to report is that we surveyed the same staff members February 2nd, and we had about 70% of our faculty respond, And there was a 30% less of our staff felt that number one, discouraged. So really that was only 5%. 5% felt answered in that number two level. 25% responded that they were right in the middle there, 3, and 53% of our, 65% of our teachers responded that they felt energized, motivated, and supported coming to work each day. And that really touched our hearts and, made us feel like the work that we're doing is moving us in the right direction. Next slide, please. Part of that survey was to go back to our charter work as part of the ruler program, where we asked faculty and staff to tell us how they wanted to feel when they came to work each day. This is work we've been doing over the last few years. And this, in our February 2nd survey, these are the words that came back. And you could see that the larger words are the words that more folks felt. And so we have a lot of positives here: optimistic, accomplished, respected, supported, and valued, enthusiastic, and compassionate. But I also see that our teachers still, have these feelings of being exhausted and overwhelmed, because this is very hard work that we're asking them to do. So how did we move those numbers and help our staff feel supported? Next slide, please. Well, we worked in conjunction with central office to make these things happen. We went directly to the survey data and tried to improve the things that were within our control. So giving teachers more time, central office did approve that we could give more flexibility to meeting times. Mr. Guarino, Ms. Orfatelli, and I worked to make sure that any duties that we could shorten the time of or take away, we were able to do that. Lessening the burden on faculty, staff, and administration of covering classes for teachers that are absent or quarantined. This is taking a lot of our teachers' planned time, as well as administrators and support staff, to cover for other staff. But with central office, we were able to hire a 4th permanent building sub, which has helped in many different ways, supporting effective management of remote learners and in-person learners simultaneously. An amazing balancing act that our teachers do each and every day for every class. We were able to hire 2 remote learning specialists that support our remote learners, the teachers, the remote families. They're wonderful liaisons, and we're so happy to have them. Thank you. The central office also worked to adopt the state flexibilities. So our teachers were worried about those. They want to do a good job, and they want to do their best for students and just for their own professional gratification. And we were able to make sure that the supervision requirements this year, we're not adding to that stress, but they were still supporting them and supporting professional development this year. And then finally, the number one thing we heard over and over was acknowledging hard work, showing care and appreciation. Next slide. So some of the things we were able to accomplish with our staff, and any of these links in red, you're able to click on yourself if you're curious. But once a month, we have one of our school counselors, Denise Grudzicki, collects and then sends out staff shout outs that come from our students and teachers and administrators and sometimes families. And it's a really nice treat for our teachers when those all pop out and they hear thank yous. You could see one of them down in the left-hand corner there. There's a student and a teacher giving a shout out to another faculty member. Staff treats and affirmations. We have a little anonymous group that's part of our SEL team that has worked to deliver little things like you see to the right hand of the slide, which I received last week, which was a relaxing lavender mask with a nice little note and some chocolates to go with it, and really brighten my day. And we have a little team of folks that try to do that for every single one of our faculty and staff, peppered throughout the year. Clear communication, student support team, student council, MSPN. We have our SEL resources and newsletter created by Mrs. Rodriguez, another one of our wonderful school counselors, that you could take a look at it. But it gives tips and inspiration for our staff to take care of themselves. It's a new thing we're trying out, and we're really happy she was able to do that for us. Surveys and faculty meetings, just making sure that we're putting how our teachers feel first and foremost so that they could do the important work of supporting and teaching our students. Next slide, please. So for moving on to how we're using social and emotional learning across the curriculum, our third school counselor, another one using the Some platform that you see Mr. LePage's newsletters come out in, Miss Murphy, has created an SEL resource that includes resources, activities, contact information for students and their families, both remote and in person. So it's a really great resource. She updates that frequently. The 6th grade teachers, Miss Miller and Miss Kyle in particular, do a daily check-in that has great emojis where kids, they just take a second in the morning or at the beginning of their class and they just tell them how they feel. Are they upset? Are they angry? And then there's a spot to let their teachers know if they need to talk to someone else or if they're really upset and they don't know what to do. And so that gets to the school counselors, school psychiatrists, administrators, and we're able to help them out in that proactive way right away. And then our social studies team has also, as part of their SLO, so their student learning objective, has focused on social and emotional learning and done periodic check-ins in a more in-depth style. So it's not that daily check-in, but making sure our students have someone that they feel connected with, both in school, student to student, in their homes, and just making sure that our students feel part of the MSP family like we want them to. So big shout out to our SEL team at the middle school. They've done so much great work. Next slide, Kevin. But it's not just our school counselors and our and folks that are focused on that from the SEL team. The PE department and the health department have done an amazing job incorporating this SEL work every day. So when you walk into PE as a student, you have a magnet with your name on it and you get to tell your teacher how you're feeling. And so if you're in a zone, if you see that square up to the upper left-hand side, is called our mood meter. And there's all sorts of feeling words on there. If you're not feeling so good, your teacher will check in on you before you leave that class and get you to the resource you need if it's really bad. So we are monitoring our students throughout the day and making sure that they have the supports they need to be able to then focus on academic success. And our health teachers know more than anyone else that one of the best things we could do for our students is giving them a voice and allowing them to be heard through their work. And they've done several projects. Kev, if you could go to the next slide. One of these projects is called Walk in My Shoes. And you could see here, if you take a look at some of the things that one of our students shared with their health teacher, you could see that there's all sorts of things probably no one in the school knows about this child, except for their teachers now in this class and the students that they shared this with. And it's so important as them to feel heard. And so I love that that's happening throughout all of our curriculum. Next slide. Our arts are doing amazing work supporting our SEL work. Laurel Schwartz in the music department did a really great lesson trying to help students see how nonverbal communication could affect other people's feelings. And students watched cartoon clips and clips of Taylor Swift and plotted her mood and their mood on the mood meters interactively through a whole lesson designed just to help them see how their reactions affect other people. Ms. Meehan in the visual arts allows students again to express themselves by creating personal symbols and name stack art, where students choose their own colors and symbols and are allowed to express themselves and show their peers who they feel they are in the world. In language arts, Ms. Balashevsky has this gratitude jar, and there's so many wonderful and sometimes silly statements by students, but my favorite, because you can't really read them, are, my teachers are using their time to teach us through a world pandemic and rocking it. I'm thankful for going to school and having amazing teachers. I'm thankful for coming to class on a bad day and having someone to make me laugh. And then this one goes out to Kevin Ross. I'm thankful for the tech guy who showed me how to make my cursor bigger. Thanks, Kevin. You made somebody's day there. Next, please. Okay, so not just, social and emotional, but making sure that's for all of our students, which is equity. And, we've had a great partnership with Lily Cornell, and that work has been incorporated by Miss Coyle and Miss Buth through MSPN and Student Council. And we have weekly themes that incorporate both the SEL work. So last week and this week, we had Valentine's Day words. So we learned what it meant to feel cherished and loved and charmed. But we also had students choosing and then researching and delivering information for Black History Month on people of their choice, people they admired. And so it was very meaningful to them and other students. Both Student Council and MSPN constantly work to bring us celebrations across cultures and countries to celebrate Black History Month, and then also to support other people. So this is a time where many people feel stress and anxiety, but we still can do good for other people. And we've raised money for Connecticut's Children's Hospital, as well as the sanitation products for folks in need. So a lot of good work being done there to support our community and students. Next, please. Our equity work, is embedded again across the curriculum. We have our art teachers looking at Mexican folk art, both through Miss Figure and Miss Meehan. Miss Meehan's also looking at poetry by Maya Angelou and having students create their own artwork to express the words of that poetry. I'll have to use one more example from Miss Balashevsky's class and her gratitude jar, because it speaks to our teachers and our students and our families that 3 students put these things in her jar to be grateful for. Martin Luther King Day, but then I'm thankful that Black and white are equal, and this is my favorite. I'm thankful for being Latina and not being judged by my color. So that says a lot about our teachers and students. Next, please. And last but not least here, we have an example of the success that we've had working with Ms. Cornell, our equity and student support specialist, and really making true strides, growth in our students that are not coming to us speaking fluent English. We have data from the program that Ms. Orfatelli is about to discuss more in depth with us, our iReady data that tracks student progression on their reading ability. And we have students meeting their goals, growing 32, 34 points from the beginning to the year to now. And that work does not happen in isolation. So we are just so very thankful to the collaboration that we've had with Ms. Cornell and for our teachers, Ms. Georgini, Balashevsky, Kyle, and many others that have reached out to her to really make sure that we are supporting all of our students socially, emotionally, and academically. And finally, just, this work that we're doing to support faculty, staff, and all students and families impacts our ability to move students towards the academic success that we all want. And to discuss that more, I turn it over to Ms. Orfatelli. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Roberts. Good evening, everyone. I'm so grateful to highlight teaching and learning tonight, and especially in the area of literacy. And I'd love to start by recognizing the talented team of teachers you see listed below and pictured very small in a screenshot of one of our awesome department meetings. Typically, you'll find us in that format for department meetings and PLC meetings where we're sharing instructional practices. But I'd love to recognize this talented team because during a pandemic, they're not just maintaining, they're not just surviving, they're making advances in curriculum and programming and student supports. And I really think that's commendable. And I'm going to share more about those advances as I share each program and advance we've made this year. Our goal is always to create a strong kindergarten to high school alignment, looking at our graduates and backwards planning to say, what does their career look like in Plainville schools? So we start first looking at our elementary programming for literacy, where our teachers are implementing from kindergarten through grade 5, the Teachers College Reading and Writing Units of Study. Students also experience the workshop model where they have student choice in reading, participate in small reading groups, engage in one-on-one conferring with their teachers, and have many different ways to participate in literacy and focus on their individualized growth. When we look at the middle school and the traditional secondary model, usually it's focused on literature, and students and teachers work through whole class novels, maybe 3 or 4 throughout the year, highlighting the Common Core standards. But there's a lot to be learned from elementary experience. So our team is focused on that this year in collaboration with Tawana Graham Douglas, who I see on this call, thank you, focusing on what does that look like if we created a strong kindergarten through grade 8 alignment of curriculum. So currently this year in a pandemic, we're piloting the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade reading units of study. We're doing 1 unit in each grade level and learning about the workshop model and how those practices can be translated to the secondary classroom. We're also focusing on volume, increasing volume, engagement, and diversity by encouraging student choice in reading versus whole class novels, and having students engage in book clubs, which you'll see below there. So those are 2 7th graders having a book club discussion about a book that they've chosen in their dystopian unit in 7th grade. When you look at the bottom left-hand corner, you'll see a chart put out by the researchers at Teachers College showcasing, to be an avid reader, how many books a reader would have to read in a week to make gains. And you can see at the UVW text level, 5th going into 6th grade, students are suggested to be reading 1 to 3 books a week. So in our past practice, having students engage in whole class novels, 3 to 4 of them a year, doesn't equate to those goals. So now we have students focusing on engaging in choice reading of books that they choose, enjoying mentor texts where teachers are teaching the skills through a class-led book as an example, and also enjoying book clubs to reach that engagement goal. Last year, we worked closely with the high school during PLC meetings where they're doing remarkable work as well. The ELA department at the high school was engaging in action research, focusing on increasing volume and engagement of reading within their high schoolers. They're also focusing on curriculum work to modernize and diversify book options for students. So you can see this work, we are all working together towards the same goal as we see our graduates grow up in literacy in the district. Here you'll see pictures of our awesome readers at the middle school of Plainville during a pandemic. You'll see in the top corner our 7th graders reading their choice books for their dystopian unit. They're also in book club, so there's a combination of independent reading and book club reading. The bottom left-hand corner, you'll see an 8th grade student studying a rubric where her teacher gave her feedback on her reading response and her comprehension of high-level text. You'll see Mr. Mascot, one of our 7th grade ELA teachers, enjoying his independent choice book, where teachers are modeling the love of reading and reading alongside students during class time. And you'll see an 8th grader on the right-hand side showing her independent choice book, and it's pretty small on her screen, but she's showing off her Shelfie, which is a fun, innovative way the department came up with to have students record their reading, much like a reading log you'd see in the younger grades. So on her shelf here in this picture, you'll see that she's completed 3 books at the top. She's working on her 4th, and she has some planning below for goal setting. So she has 1 book that she has on deck for after she finishes this book, especially if they're series readers. And there's also a place for abandoned books so that teachers can talk through with students why a book didn't work out and help guide them to increase engagement. Here you'll see 2 screenshots of our awesome ELA teachers. On the top, Emily Kyle in 6th grade, teaching a lesson from her pilot unit from Teachers College on character development. And below, Tess Murphy in 8th grade, teaching a lesson from the pilot unit, contemporary literature. And in 8th grade, they're currently focusing on power dynamics and how they affect the plot and character development and how that relates to society and the challenges we're facing today with society and racism. And they're exploring all of that through literature. On the right-hand side, you'll see a quick snapshot of the 3 pilot units we're experimenting with this year. And below in the bottom right-hand corner was an awesome resource put out by Teachers College that Tawana Graham Douglas helped us acquire, where the Teachers College staff developers have filmed the lessons for professional development for our teachers to guide them in understanding of how to teach the content standards in the curriculum. So that's been an amazing resource for us, and great job, Embedded PD. Mrs. Roberts talked a little bit about iReady. So on the left-hand side, you can see iReady is a reading diagnostic assessment, much like our elementary students experience the independent reading level assessment, or IRLA, where it gives them their independent reading level score and what their instructional level is. We are very much working towards a goal of the biggest part of our triangle being in green, where 80% or more of our students would be performing, and having the yellow and especially the red make up 5 to 10% of our population. We have a long way to go, and we're dedicated to getting there. iReady is one of the tools that's instrumental in making the growth and progress that we'd like to make. So some highlights of iReady are the continuation from kindergarten and grade 5 into the middle school, with students having an independent level, making growth and progress throughout the year, and for us to make instructional decisions from that data. It's a benchmark assessment system administered 3 times a year, fall, winter, and spring. It's criterion referenced, meaning that it measures the Common Core standards and each student's progress towards mastering the standards of their level. If they are at mastery or at grade level expectation, it breaks it down for us with showing us where they are and what we can do instructionally to close the achievement gap. The data is used systematically to place students in tiered reading intervention and to inform instruction in the classroom, a meaningful piece of data that we haven't had before to inform our instruction. Speaking of reading intervention, a positive of COVID-19, I know, I can't believe there is one, but with the need for cohorting, we were able to dedicate 1 ELA teacher and 1 literacy tutor to meeting the needs of high-risk readers for this year. We've been able to research and pilot and implement scientific research-based intervention programming appropriate for adolescents. We've worked with different districts, renowned colleagues, researchers to find the programming that's right for our age group and for the needs of our building. So currently we have programs in place to address high-risk readers in the 5 pillars of literacy, specifically at our age group in fluency, vocabulary, and comprehension. Between our 2 reading instructors, we've been able to offer reading intervention supports to 51 students to this point of the year, about 10% of our population. And as of January, we have 8 students, there's more as of this exact moment, that have graduated from reading intervention and are currently reported as reading at grade level, thus closing the gap. You can see a picture here of Elise Fury, our reading intervention teacher, teaching a socially distanced reading group and doing a wonderful job. We've really been focused on fostering strong homeschool connections, especially at the middle school level. Scores from iReady will be able to be sent to each family every time the student takes the assessment, letting families know where their student is, what we're working on, and how to help and support them at home. Family meetings are being held to discuss student progress and programming. Families receive letters at each intervention cycle. We try to reassess and monitor every 6 weeks to make sure students are getting what they need and that we're being very systematic about it. So we've involved our families in that process. And I've included 2 pieces of feedback from MSP parents this year that are a testament to the hard work that we're doing. So I'll let you enjoy those for a moment. And I'll leave you with many success stories. These are just a few of many, so please choose one to enjoy that truly highlight the work that we've engaged in this year and are a testament to the hard work we've done. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Melissa and Amy and Matt, for representing MSP's work this year. You know, what brings me a lot of pride is the clear connection to the 3 foundational core elements of our vision, as well as all the vision goals and components, but really the focus on equity, SEL, and mastery of learning and concepts, and really doing whatever it takes through a pandemic to make sure those all happen and happen on a high level. So at this time, I'll turn it over to the Board of Ed if anyone has any questions for our panel from the middle school.
Any questions on any part of that massive, by the way, presentation?
Hey, we weren't as long as Carl.
But there was so much there.
Covered it all.
How long have you been working on, what did you call it, Melissa? The
iReady.
iReady. How long have you guys been using that model?
We just implemented it this year. So our first set of data is from the fall, of course, after a pandemic or in response to a pandemic, but still meaningful nonetheless. But we've been researching it as a team with Tawana since the summer.
We were able to purchase that. That's one of our software or programs, I should say, that we were able to get through the grant. It's in our budget you'll be voting on tonight as well for continued or expanded use.
Yeah, that looked really interesting. And, you know, I mean, it was I'm not kidding you. There was a lot there from an SEL, perspective, from an equity perspective, and from an academic perspective. Just a lot going on and a lot to be really feel good about, because some days you gotta wonder what we've got to feel good about. You know, it can be tough, but I really was very impressed with the entire presentation. You guys are doing awesome work.
Thank you, Becky.
And all your staff too.
Thank you. We'll pass that on.
If there are no other questions for the middle school team, hearing none, thank you all for your hard work in putting that excellent presentation together and really showing that connection to our district vision and the work that we're trying to achieve across the district. And if you want to stay for my my fifth budget presentation, you're more than welcome to. It literally is the fifth one, fifth of many more, I'm sure. But very exciting stuff, riveting, hot off the presses. But you will get a copy of it as well, so you don't have to stay. So I'll jump right into that because tonight, and Kevin, if you could pull my presentation up. Thanks, Amy, Melissa, and Matt. You have a copy of that, Kevin, right? Thank you. So on the agenda this evening is, as you see highlighted on this slide, new business. Item J is request approval of the fiscal year 2021-22 proposed Board of Education operating budget. So you'll see that later tonight. So I want to just give an overview, and just for, you know, for the sake of those who may be watching on the, you know, YouTube channel, or will see a recording of this, I'm going to give a, you know, I looked through it on the last slide of this presentation. I copied, I made available all 5 presentations. Believe it or not, a total of 103 slides, in addition to the 97-page plus budget book. So there's a lot to consider. Some of the presentations have more pictures and are more geared toward families, like presentation number 2 that you'll see in the back. But this will give you an overview of where we are tonight and why we're here, and what I believe this budget that I've proposed to the Board of Education for your consideration for approval, and all the iterations of it over the last few weeks, what it offers, what it provides, and what's in it. So Kevin, if you could take us to the next slide. We always start with our 3 rings, and I know you saw this many, many times, but I know you saw a lot of this come to life in the middle school's presentation and also in the high school's presentation last month, and you'll see it in the elementary principal trio's presentation in the next month. So, you know, everything we do connects back to this vision that was agreed upon and adopted and modified over the years slightly, and adopted and approved by the Board of Education. So this guides our work that we do and how we spend our money in the best interest of our district and of our students and our staff and families in the whole town. Go ahead, Kevin. The next slide is our vision of the graduate, a portrait of the graduate, I should say, and our 5, you know, pillars of character and quality we want all graduates to have, starting in preschool all the way up through high school and graduation, and building upon those qualities and you know, over the years. And really, you've heard these terms many times. You've heard the portrait, and you've seen already several honorees being recognized for exhibiting these qualities, and you see them in our students. So we'll continue to build on these guiding principles, if you will, and character traits. So on the next slide, you're going to see, in addition to keeping these guiding principles in mind, our vision and our portrait, we have some other factors to consider and had to consider these needs in the development of our budget this year. And as we started developing our budget last summer and throughout the fall and really kicking it into the next year at the start of the winter, we knew some of the information, but it's evolved and changed throughout the course of the year as we are in a pandemic. I will say that Plainville, I'm very proud of the work we've done. I don't think there's any district that can say they did a perfect job with it, because we're constantly adapting and modifying what we do to address the best needs of the district, given the many uncontrollable factors that we face every day. But I'm really proud of the work we've done as an entire district at every school. But this represents a picture of some of the things you may not hear about as much, or the community may not. Over 100 students have disenrolled since last year. So 112 students have left us for one reason or another. We have had some students coming back in, but more have left, some for financial reasons, some for COVID reasons, going to live with family in another state. So the reasons are complicated, but we also have a total, at the time we ran this slide, and we've had some come back since then, but 476 students district-wide that are that cohort C full remote students by family choice, and for medical reasons, for other reasons, and fears related to COVID, and fears of possible issues related to COVID with family members, things like that. So certainly understandable, and we're doing everything we can to support all the students. But because of all that, there are additional needs, and not everyone has the same learning environment at home. Some have extremely supportive and present family members and parents and guardians who are able to help them, or a grandparent. Others have a lot of challenges that they have to overcome, and jobs that don't allow them to be home. So maybe an older sibling is keeping an ear out and keeping an eye out on a younger sibling. So everyone has different restraints on their ability to access learning. So that's something we have to account for as we move forward in planning our budget. Kevin? So when we think about learning, and we think about the recovery, and I kind of changed the title of this one since you saw it last time, but it's really about the COVID-19 impacts, our resilience through it in the phases of recovery. And I use resilience because that's one of our portrait of the graduate traits, and I think our staff has exhibited that better than any across, all the way down from our paras and tutors and office professionals, our teachers, of course, our administrators, the entire district, our cafeteria staff, our custodians and maintainers. It's just been a full district team effort on many levels. But so, this year we've been forced to, since last March, really, we've been forced to react. And like I said, I think we've reacted and used whatever savings and dollars were available to do the best we could to react to a situation when nobody ever anticipated. This year, we're in the kind of, we're in there, that's still in that reaction phase because things have changed throughout the year. Next year, the year we're budgeting for is really a recovery year, or the first year of a recovery phase. I anticipate we'll be close to some sense of normalcy. There'll still be some things to contend with, I'm sure, and we'll see what comes. But we have to plan for that, and we have to budget for that, and we have to be mindful of that. And starting this budget, we didn't know exactly what budget dollars would be available to us to support that, from grants, I should say, excuse me. And this is a multi-year process where we grow, we learn, we implement strategies, we implement programs and projects aimed at short and long-term recovery, and we get back to a normalized period, hopefully, 2023, 2024. This is a multi-year process. And some districts are going to take a lot longer to get back to any sense of normalcy. Some districts have been fully remote or just starting to go back. So we're in a very good place, but we have work to do, I guess is the message. Next slide, Kevin. Some of the primary drivers and offsets and budget considerations. You can go to the next slide. This was received by town leadership, and it was shared with us. And this is just really a summary of all the Fiscal Analysis, Office of Fiscal Analysis, but all the grants that are out there. Some grants are specific to education, must be used for educational purposes. Some are even more specific to just having schools open and in person. whereas the ESSER grants, ESSER funds are for COVID-related expenses. And the latest Sr2 grants and really relate to any COVID expenses going back to March 13th of 2020 and all the way through September 30th of 2023. So we didn't know what those dollars would look like when we started our budget process. We heard there might be some more money coming. We had already expended most of our grant money, all the coronavirus relief fund money you'll see on another slide. So I guess the point in this is that there are many grants out there to help, you know, municipalities and different organizations for different reasons, but there are some very specific to education and to more specifically recovery from the COVID impacts. So meant to be at additional funds to supplement and support districts as they move forward and recover in those phases I just showed you in the last slide. Go ahead, Kevin. So the Sr2 grant was announced, I believe it was a week ago Friday, and you know it really changed some of what we had in our budget, and so you know it caused us to go from kind of more of a speculative assumption because we heard that it might be a certain amount of money or you know a decent amount of dollars to what we found out would be a very substantial $1.605 million to support our district recovery. And I'll share more about that. But it's really, you know, I bolded words in particular because it's really about that recovery of all students and where it's needed most. And it recognizes that the disparities in learning that I talked about due to different learning opportunities and situations, you know, it's to bridge those gaps and to do learning acceleration, innovation, recovery, and you'll see the areas later. Go ahead, Kevin. This just gives you a snapshot that, you know, first of all, I want to thank my Director of Business and Operations, Sam Adlerstein. He's a whiz with all these, the graphs and Microsoft or the Excel products. Just, and he's, you know, he's critical to supporting the development of the budget. And of course, I lean heavily on the entire central office team to do a lot of things while my nose is buried in the budget with Sam. Sam is incredible with all of this. So, you know, I couldn't build the budget without him. And thank Dave Lewandowski and of course, Tawana and Lily and Vicky and Christine and everybody else, all our principals. But I did want to mention Sam specifically for all the hard work and hours he puts in all weekend. We're going back and forth with emails and text messages, and it's a 24/7 for several months, really looking at this deeply. So this is the allocation, $1.605,726 million, ranked 42nd in the state, and this is based on the title grant allocation. So it has to do with town wealth and a number of other factors that they assign us with the Title 1, 2, 3, and 4 grants that we get to support other personnel and programs and training in the district. That amounts to, in the bottom graph, $697 per student, which is actually ranked 30th in the state when you look at it at a per student ratio. Go ahead, Kevin. That shows you, you know, where we are. In the top 10 districts received more than half of the money, you know, $243 million, I believe, for 10 districts, larger, more urban districts with greater need. So some of the grant offsets that I mentioned earlier, what was called the CARES Act ESSER Part 1, was we received $337,000 out of the 362 that was awarded to Plainville. The other part went to the Wheeler Clinic. You know, we're required to share, you know, a portion of that with private schools who would like those dollars as well. The coronavirus relief funds was a success story because we have stayed open and done so well and kept our district safe and really taken a lot of measures to do that, and it costs a lot of money. We've spent, as you'll see at the bottom part of this, over $1 million already since last March, and just especially this year, and really reopening and staying open and doing so as safely as absolutely possible. So we were originally going to get just $235,000 from that grant, and other districts who had requested large amounts of money but then did not open for one reason or another, that money was returned and it was given back to the districts who did remain open. So it went from $235,000 to $875,000. And like I said, that's been expended. So we did not have to go back to the town officials and ask for money that we had returned last year from realized savings. So that was a good thing. But as I said, the Sr2 Grant supports those 4 core areas that are in bold in the middle of this slide: academic supports, learning loss, learning acceleration and recovery, and then family and community connections, school safety and school social emotional well-being and the whole student and staff, school staff, and then remote learning, staff development, in the digital divides with technology. So it goes into more detail, but we can go to the next slide, Kevin. Again, all these presentations will be available on the website. This just shows you the 4 areas, and it really breaks it down to more detail, which I will not read to you. But the pie graphs at the bottom, it's really an estimate, an initial estimate. I'm working really hard with our district administrative team and looking at projects and how we're going to utilize this money well to really help our students recover, innovate, accelerate, and go above and beyond, our hopes and our goals for all their success for every student. So, it breaks into the 4 areas. You can see the color-coded chart. That's just an estimate. The pink is the academics, the blue is community-based, family and community supports and connections. The green is their well-being. That's the SEL and the work supporting the whole child and the whole teacher and staff member, and then technologies, that purplish color. So next slide, Kevin. That's just a visual representation and estimation. This gives it just a list of some of the projects that we've come up with that are of need. We're in the process now of prioritizing the need and putting together a project plan for each of these that different members of our district teams and leadership and our staff will be implementing. So everything from summer programs to increasing access to college level courses at the high school to, building pathways to more business partnerships. The list goes on and on based on the different areas, and I won't read them to you. And I know the board heard them all read to them at the last meeting, but I just wanted to share this with the community as well. So the next slide, when we're looking at all the needs of our district and some of our plans for the district, there are certain key positions. When we build our budget, we ask each administrator, principal, and athletic director, and all our principals and department leaders, facilities, all of our different programs, communications, community relations, all our programs, adult ed, what do you need? Are there additional staff needs? What's the rationale for it? And, how will they be well utilized to support, our student learning and our student success and well-being? So these were the 5 positions that came to the surface this year, largely due to COVID, needs that have developed. Some of them, I will say, like psychologists, have been requested, for a period of time. It's been, removed from the budget for a number of, trying to keep the budget fairly, aggressive and not asking for too much in any one year and making do with what we have. But the needs are extensive. So we feel that these positions are all really important. The family school liaison, the tutor for English language arts and for math. So English and math at the high school to really support those tiered interventions that were pointed out through NEASC, a very, very positive success of a NEASC visit, but those are areas we need to shore up a little bit at the high school. And then our technology support technician to really, that we did propose in our second meeting, reducing to a part-time position based on conversation with Kevin Ross and understanding the needs of that department. So these are the new positions that were in the original budget. Go ahead, Kevin. The next slide just shows the contractual increases. These are based on collective bargaining and our requirements to bargain a fair and reasonable, usually a 3-year contract. Some of these were a 1-year holdover and that will be renegotiated. We do have administrators and paraprofessional and tutors coming up in the spring for the next 3-year contract, and as well as nurses. They're not a collective bargaining group, but we also negotiate with them as well and arrange and create their contract. So these are the set amounts along with our insurance and our pensions that are out of our control. These numbers may shift a little bit. We don't get those numbers yet. They'll come later in the spring when it's probably in March or so. when it's, the budget's really in the hands of the town council at that point. So we may have a reduction in health insurance and pension, or it may increase, but we're hoping it'll decrease if anything. So this just our contractual increases is a 2.52%, $987,403 without doing anything else. Kevin, if you could take the next slide. This next slide's a little bit busy, but I'll break it down in the parts. The top part is really just our 8 areas of the budget, our 8 object areas of or lines of salaries, benefits, which are 85% of our budget, just the salaries and benefits. It's typical of most boards of education. Then our professional services, repairs, and then transportation, tuition, so equipment, dues, and fees. The original budget I proposed to you on January 21st, after town manager and I gave an overview of the whole budget, process and expectations and initial information on the 19th. I proposed a 2.84% budget, which factored in the contractual increases as well as those new positions that I mentioned on a prior slide that we believe necessary for COVID, as well as additional software that have really helped us to grow from COVID. iReady was one of them that you heard about, but there are many. So we had built those costs into the expected need for those to continue. You can see there in the budget process, the change log, which is part of the budget book. This just shows you that middle box there just shows you the things that have been amended since that time. And then at the bottom, it just talks about, it's important to note that some of these positions and some of these resources are going to be recommended to be taken out of this budget, but there's something that'll be on the table for consideration in 2 years when we're looking at the 2023-24 budget. Because once the grant money is gone, we'll have to decide whether we want to continue those resources or make shifts in our staffing to make room for those resources or reduce those resources. If you go to the next slide, Kevin. And I'm almost done. I just wanted to give a kind of an overview for the public and for the board as you deliberate on your decision tonight. This just gives you a snapshot of where we began at a $40,256,695 budget in my initial proposed superintendent's budget, which would have been a $1.112 million increase. That was on January 21st, 2.84% increase over last year. Estimating based on some early, I guess, educated rumors from educational groups that the ESSER funds would be more substantial than we thought. We built in another $100,000 of ESSER reductions or offsets, as well as reduce the technology position by $25,000. That brought it down to 2.52% or $987,000. At the last meeting, I proposed, based on realizing how much ESSER 2 funds we would get, I proposed consideration of the board to take all the positions out, take out the extra software, take out the summer programs and the after-school programs and other COVID-related expenses that can be charged to the Sr2 Grant, and that would bring our budget down to $40,028,970 or 2.26%, which is an increase of $884,703, which is less of an increase than we had last year. I think the increase last year was $915,000. Kevin? So this just shows you the different line items where the changes occur in the 2.26%. And, I summarized at the bottom that we recommend this budget. I recommend this budget supplemented by ESSER funding to provide for student recovery and staff supports while considering taxpayers during what we understand are difficult times. Our budget represents a careful balance between needs and available resources in the best interest of all Plainville residents. And I do mean that. So as we normally do, and Sam reminded me today, we update the budget book to reflect the changes to the pages. And normally when we're meeting in person, I hand you those pages and we replace them in the big binders. You're going to get all those once the Board of Ed budget is approved. We don't do it, we didn't need to do it now because you're getting everything electronically. I'm not going to go through any of these pages in great detail, but this just shows you where the reflected offsets are in some additional, minor shifts on some of the object pages. The first one is, Kevin, go ahead to the next one. So object, next one, object 1111, certified teachers. And then the next one is tutors on page 13. The next one is page 14 for other non-bargaining. And then page 27 of the budget book is object 3201, instructional program services. That's a lot of the software, and it just shows your reduction in that line. And then finally, supplies, instructional supplies. And as I said, everything that was in my original budget of 2.84% will be included in this budget. It's just being, the plan is to pay for the COVID related using federal dollars that are available to us instead of building it into the towns, into our budget that would reflect, an increase on the town level. So that's what, and also adding a lot of programs that we're working on planning in addition to what's in the budget and what's, some of the things you heard about earlier. The next slide just gives you an overview of, that one, Kevin. This is just what I already told you, 2.26% is what I would, I would recommend to the Board of Education based on all of our discussions we've had over the multiple nights. The next slide, there was one question. We had an ongoing question and answer document that we'll make public as part of the book, but this was a question that came in. The benefits of the revised ESSER 2 funding, I believe, does not come without some costs, substantial reporting requirements, which is true. Will some or all these additional costs be funded by the grant funding provided, or will some have to be funded from the PCF's operating budget? And the answer that, Sam and I talked about, but it's basically just it'll be part of the work that we do. Our staff will absorb those reporting functions. It will require our time and our effort, but it just makes our day a little bit longer, but we'll get that work done. It won't cost anything extra. It'll just be built into what we do. Our team does in reporting on how we're using that money, why we're using it that way, and our plan, our plans for the money, why we have those plans, and what we did about those plans, and what the outcomes of the plans are. So there is a pretty heavy reporting function with ESSER 2. And on the last slide, it just gives you every presentation that you have seen so far, going back from January 19th until tonight. Well, not tonight's. Tonight's isn't included here. So there are actually 6 presentations, my apologies. And feel free to watch all of those at your leisure. For families, I would say I'm going to be doing overview presentations for families at PTO meetings and PAC at the high school PAC, and at also at faculty meetings. So I'm going to modify the one from the 21st. It has more of the students teaching and learning, and with pictures, and really highlights the work we're doing, and also some of the outcomes that I just shared with you tonight, depending on what happens with your vote. So that's all I have to say for the overview of the budget. Any questions at all before I conclude my superintendent presentation? Was I on mute the whole time? Uh-oh. Do I have to say it all again? I'm just kidding. You've heard enough from me. I know you've heard from me multiple nights, spent a lot of time looking at all this, and I appreciate it. I think the town should know that you did your due diligence and really paying careful attention to everything that's been shared and asking good questions throughout the process. And, a lot has been thrown your way, and it's changed based on grant monies, but I think this Board of Education has been very careful and very thoughtful about your review of the budget. So, and I appreciate that. And I'm sure the taxpayers and families appreciate that, especially. So, if you have any other questions, I'm happy to answer them, or if Sam can answer them probably better than I can. Especially if it involves dollars, spreadsheets, grant funds. He's a whiz. So anything we can do, let me know. Otherwise, I'll conclude my presentation and report.
All right, I'm not seeing any questions, so we will move on. And of course, later on tonight, we'll be voting on the budget. So we will probably have a conversation at that point too.
Thank you.
That brings us to our board subcommittee reports. And I do think we have a student rep. Yes? I see Garrett.
Catherine or Garrett?
Yes, we will both be presenting some information today.
All right, take it away.
So my name is Garrett Millette. I'm a junior at Plainville High School, and I will be just giving you an overview of the student condition. So students are adapting to their new schedules as semester 1 and quarter 2 came to a close on January 6th, which marked the beginning of semester 2 and quarter 3 on the 27th. Teachers have submitted students' grades for quarter 3 on the 5th, and we're returning to normalcy after recent snow days, which at PHS have been fully remote half days with office hours from 1:10 to 2:10, creating opportunities for students to seek after school help from teachers. Those days were Wednesday, the 27th of January, Monday, the 1st of February, and Tuesday, the 2nd. Power School course elections opened on the 26th of January and will close on the 11th of February. And school counselors will meet in March to discuss changes in logistics. Overall, the tone of PHS in recent weeks have been differing as students, faculty, and staff have been adjusting flexibly to the changes at Plainville schools and the nationwide climate, along with the approach of winter break from the 12th through 16th. Now, Catherine will present the list of events.
I don't know that I see Catherine on here.
No, I don't think she's here anymore.
Did we lose her?
If she's not here, then I can present her.
Are you sure, Garrett? Are you good with that? I don't want to.
Yeah. Yep.
I may have put Catherine to sleep. I apologize.
So looking back, we had Martin Luther King Day on January 18th, so there's no school. And then the day after, winter sports commenced on the 19th. As I said earlier, the last day of quarter 2 in semester 1 was January 26th. The 8th grade transition assembly was held virtually on February 4th. The elective fair was also held virtually on February 5th and 8th for current 8th graders. Project Graduation had their first meeting for Mr. PHS last week, and our first remote learning days on snow days occurred. I had listed the dates of those earlier. So currently we have a Spirit Week this week, right before our break. We had our first week of athletic contests this week for winter sports. And then starting today, we had our academic labs, which aid students in core subjects, and that occurs every Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday from 12:40 p.m. to 1:10 p.m. Going forward, PHS course selection will close on the 11th for 9th, 10th, and 11th graders. Report cards will be issued on February 11th. The Social Justice Club is selling friendship bracelets as a fundraiser starting February 12th. A portion of the proceeds will go to True Colors Incorporated. Winter recess will go from 12th to 16th, and President's Day is on the 15th. And then as my last point, I have school day SAT is on March 24th for juniors, and the PSAT for 9th graders is on that day as well. And that concludes the student portion.
Yeah, I think Catherine, are you here too? I'm sorry. I think I see that you chatted. Yes. All right. So Catherine's not able to. She's somehow logged in under Mr. Johnson's account. So I appreciate you being here, Catherine. Sorry we weren't able to hear the report from you, but Garrett, you stepped in and did a great job. So
thank you.
Thanks to you both.
Right. It looks like Mr. Johnson's on here. That is odd, huh? Well, all right. Thank you very much, Garrett, for all that information. It sounds like things are moving along quickly at the high school. This year's kind of going to fly by, I think. But the next item we have is our finance and facilities. We did not have a meeting, so I'm not going to call on anybody for that. Policy, Ms. St. Lawrence.
Policy Subcommittee met virtually on Monday, January 25th. Let's see, Mr. Lewandowski reviewed the new policy for the high school graduation requirement. The requirements were brought to the Curriculum Subcommittee and then to the Board of Ed for approval, which took place at our January meeting. So basically, the current policy just needed to be amended to reflect those changes. Let's see, then we also went through our transportation series, which is like policy numbers 3541, 3541.3, and 3541.5, which are also on like our agenda tonight too. Let's see, so basically the policy number 3541, the policy and regulations we went over. So 3541 was basically amended to reflect incorrect language in the previous policy regarding walking distances to and from school, which conflicts with current language, right, Dave? Is that right? And the current policies and regulations will be eliminated and streamlined into one policy, I believe, the 3541 for transportation. I think that was pretty much it. And we'll be meeting again in March, actually March 29th, and then we'll be meeting again in June to keep going with those policies.
Right. Thank you very much. Curriculum did not meet as, and neither did outreach. The PAC liaison, Mr. White, you have anything to report?
Yes, I do. The PAC met on January 11th. There was a 7 p.m. Zoom meeting. At that meeting, the treasurer reported a balance on hand of $2,812.68. He also noted that the bottle and can collection drive that they did in the fall actually netted them $915 profit. They will be accepting scholarship applications up until April 16th. They do anticipate that their funding will allow them to award 3 $500 scholarships and to also to supplement their income starting on February 19th, running through March 5th. They'll be doing their Butter Braids fundraising campaign. And as a side note, I do have their order form, so I will be kind of communicating with anybody on the Board of Education, among others, that may be interested. The prices are essentially the same as last year. The braids are $14 and the cakes are $15. The orders must be in by March 5th, and they'll be picked up on March 18th of 21. Their next meeting is on March 10th at 7 p.m. It'll be a Zoom. And at that meeting, I think Superintendent LePage will also be, as he indicated earlier, he'll be presenting to them some highlights of the budget that hopefully we will approve tonight and forward on to the council.
Okay.
Any questions?
I don't think so. That brings us to Topline report, Mrs. Martinez.
Sure, the Topline PTO met on January 21st. The PTO is trying to wait as long as possible before planning end of year activities in the hopes that restrictions loosen up a bit in the spring. They're going to try to do as many as possible, either as we've done them in the past or adapted to meet existing situation. And the PTO president, Bethel Hairston, reviewed the budget process so that parents have an understanding of how it all works. She encouraged parents to become involved and to learn about the proposed budget. And the PTO would also like to remind families about the meals that are provided for no charge. They encourage families to take part in both the in-school breakfast and lunch program, as well as the to-go meals that are distributed outside the high school. And the next PTO meeting is February 18th at 7 p.m.
Thank you. And that brings us to the Lyndon PTO report, Mrs. Wells.
So at Lyndon, the Lolly Graham fundraiser is currently ongoing, topping over 500 messages of love and friendship throughout the school. They are having a spirit wear store that is going to be virtually opening through a local vendor in town, A2Z, featuring 6 items with the school logo. And they are currently planning for a virtual version of the Lucky Leprechaun Bingo. And there will be more information on that to come.
I like that. Thank you. That leaves us with the middle school, Mrs. St. Lawrence.
Yep, the MSP PTC met virtually on Tuesday, January 12th. Let's see, I guess they were sending out another, they call it an unfundraiser donation letter to all families. I think they were sending it in January or February. So they're hoping to get some donations from that letter. And they're looking at other fundraisers so that they can continue to do those end of the year events that they normally do. And they will meet again tomorrow evening virtually, Tuesday, February 9th at 7 o'clock.
Thank you. And last but certainly not least, Wheeler Elementary School, Ms. Palmieri.
Yes. So as we talked about before the retirement of Mr. Praco, they put together a parade for him, and he did a last walk through the school, and it was on Channel 3, so it was very exciting. A great send-off, even though we're in a pandemic. So kudos to them for putting that together. And then there was a snow play video sent out a couple days ago. I don't know if you guys saw, of all the kids playing in the snow when we had all that snow. So they're having a good time with virtual snow days and keeping the kids connected to each other. And it's always fun to see little kids playing in the snow. So.
Can't go wrong there.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much. From the Crick Council perspective, in the month of January, there was not a lot to report to the board, but I did want to mention that there is going to be a virtual legislative breakfast on this Thursday, the 11th. I don't know why we're calling it a breakfast. I mean, seriously, what are we all going to do? Sit there in our houses and drink coffee? But anyway, there is a virtual legislative breakfast. That is hosted by Crick and CABE. So we'll be participating in that. I know several of us are, I believe, signed up for that. Under the chairperson's report, I put it in my notes on the online, and I don't have them in front of me now. Let me see. Apparently not much, because I can't remember a thing. So I'm not going to worry about it. So you get a pass on a nice short chairperson's report. We don't have any unfinished business, and that brings us to new business. So we have board open forum. Is there anything that board members want to mention or toss in there?
Madam Chairman, I would just like, I think an email went out today, but there will be a virtual day on the Hill on March 17th. And I think Joan needs to know if those that want to be, it's going to be like a webinar. Those that would like to be registered, if they get that information into Joan, hopefully there will be some students also participating this year.
Mr. Johnson sent that out to students earlier today, I believe. So we're hoping to get, or he sent it to staff for student nominees. So
great for anyone in civics and social studies. Those practical approach.
Anybody else? All right. This is not our month for special education report. This is not our month for the turf committee. And that brings us to a series of policies that Ms. St. Lawrence mentioned. And it looks like some of them are, being eliminated because they're being combined with others. So there's a whole series of them here for first read. And because I feel like the last few times I've done first readings, I feel like I'm confused. I checked with Joan today. And so what we do here is we introduce the policy. I'm going to ask for a motion to approve in a second, but we will not vote on it to approve. What we will do then is I'll ask for a motion to postpone, and we'll approve. We'll have a vote. We'll have a motion and a second on that, and we will then vote to postpone, so that we can come back for the second reading next month. So I'm pretty clear on what we're going to do. And I think as long as I know what I'm asking for, everyone else should be able to follow my lead, and I hopefully won't mess this up. So we'll see. My question to you is, do you want to do these policies separately, or do you want to do them as a group? That's totally up to you guys. But I'll take a motion to approve either one, or if you want to do them as a group.
Madam Chairman, I would move that we approve the the policy changes itemized on the budget D, E, F, G, H, and I.
Correct. Okay, so we have a motion and second by, was that Kat? Who was that? Kat?
Rebecca.
Oh, Rebecca. Okay, there you are. So we
And
have
I would move that we table that till next meeting.
postponed to next meeting.
Second.
Second. All right. So with that, I'm going to ask if I'm going to ask for the vote then. So all in favor of postponing this for the first read till next month, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, we are unanimous on that one. Thank you very much. And then that brings us to the budget, I believe. Yes. Item J.
Yes.
So we have a request to approve the proposed budget for the Board of Education. And that was just referenced by the superintendent as a 2.26 increase. So what I'd like to do is get a motion to get it going, and then we can discuss from there. So if someone would like to make a motion.
Madam Chairman, I request that we approve the fiscal year budget of 21-22, totaling $28,970, representing a 2.2% increase of $884,703 over the prior year's budget.
Okay, motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Ms. Crystal gives us a second. Okay. Any conversation here? Any questions? Anybody want to voice an opinion before we do a roll call vote?
Madam Chairman, as the superintendent indicated tonight, I think that this is a well thought out budget. It does accommodate some very substantial grant opportunities that have been provided to us through the Sr2 funding. And it does allow the addition of a very much needed staff of 4.5 FTEs to compensate for the needs that we're going to be experiencing with the impact of COVID.
Any other comments?
I have a few concerns. So I have some concerns. They're in no particular order. One concern is that Plainville's unemployment in December was 7.3%. And I don't know by adding 5 new positions if that's a good thing for our taxpayers. It's going to raise taxes, and it's going to take people a while to recover from the financial effects of COVID. So that concerns me. Another thing is, because in Connecticut, whatever our budget is this year, we cannot go below it next year. So if something catastrophic happens this year and we have to use all the grant money and such, we can't reduce our budget next year. And adding grant money to offset the cost of the bringing on the new positions, it may bring down the percentage, but it doesn't bring down the cost of the actual budget. Once the grant money runs dry, we're on the hook for that. So it's not really decreasing the budget. It's just, it's manipulating the numbers, I guess you could say. I'm not convinced that we know right now the full picture of what the children will need to catch up from COVID-19. I'd rather wait a year and see really where the weaknesses are next year when all the kids are in school, so that we really understand what they need. Also, there's always the chance that the district will not get 100% reimbursement, or that the grant money will fall through. We all know that the government promises things sometimes even at the state level, and we don't get the grant money that they promise. And also, if something unforeseen happens this year and we have to use that money, we don't have it next year to offset the cost of the new positions. And that pushes it a year closer for the taxpayers to be on the hook for it. So I'm just concerned about putting that much in the budget this year. And in my opinion, the board didn't do their job this year. Our job is not to rubber stamp a budget presented to us by the superintendent. Our job is to thoroughly go through the budget and make changes that benefit both the children and the taxpayers. And I don't feel that we did that. And I would have been more than happy to talk about compromising on the budget, maybe perhaps not do 5 new positions, maybe 3, whatever it may be, but nobody seemed to be open to that. So it's not that I'm just against the budget. We possibly could have come to an agreement, but nobody really wanted to talk to me about that.
You all set?
Yep.
Okay. Anybody else?
Hi. Rebecca. Hello. I just wanted to say, I don't feel in any way that we rubber stamped the budget because I wasn't in agreement when Steve went lower with it. Something catastrophic did happen last year. It was COVID. And I am very happy that they are looking at social and emotional wellness, and the need to catch these kids up is going to be great. And that needs to be done sooner rather than later so they don't fall behind. I don't feel in any way that we would be stuck with something. It is our job as the Board of Ed to make sure the students have what they need and to make sure that they're in a good space. So by all means, I don't feel like we'd be in a position in a few years where we'd be stuck by anything. Steve did say multiple times, I believe, that he would be reviewing what was added to this in a couple of years' time. Although besides possibly cleaning needs, all of the additions have been stuff that we've been looking at for a couple of years anyway, especially everything with social and emotional wellness and the need for the psychologists and things of that nature. So I don't feel we rubber stamped it. I do trust our leadership and will of course vote in favor of this budget. And thank you so much for the time you guys spent in developing it.
Thank you.
Anybody else? I will just say that, nothing, this has been a year where, nothing has gone as it has in the past. So the budget is also the same. This is kind of a very unusual circumstance to have resources and to have to come up with the best way to use them in a way that will be the right thing to do for kids and not cause us a problem down the road. And so I think that the administration has done a really good job of that, to find ways to invest in things that we will need moving forward. And, we have to do what's right now. And I think that's what we are doing. So even though, this is a different, we're in a different time and the budget was a little bit different, I feel like we did what we normally do, which is page by page, look at every single line. And I have to say there were not very many adjustments. And to me, that was a little bit of a sign that, everything that is being asked for is what we need to be doing right now. So I appreciate all the work I know that all the administration put their time in, but especially Steve, Dave, and Sam. Really appreciate your work on the budget. So if no one else has anything to say, what I'm going to do is do a little roll call, and when I call your name, please say yes or no on your vote for the motion. Okay. I'll start with Crystal.
Yes.
Foster.
I vote in favor. Aye.
Deb.
Yes.
Kathy.
Yes.
Brent.
Yes.
Nicole.
No.
Lori.
Yes.
And Rebecca.
Yes.
Thank you. And I am also voting affirmative as well. All right, so our budget is going to move forward to the town council. And I thank everybody for their time on trying to get to the best budget possible. The next item we have on our agenda is the reapproval of the 2021-2022 school calendar. There was an adjustment made there today, and on that and the next item, which is the calendar for the future years going forward. I think it had something to do with the oh gosh. I think it was an adjustment by Tawana for the professional development days and whatnot. Steve, do you
Yeah, there was an adjustment in the March PD day, and then there was also an adjustment to the winter break because of when Christmas fell, it would have had like a half day Monday and then the rest of the week off. So, you know, we ended up having that the day off and then make up that day later in the year. So it just made more sense instead of bringing the kids in for a half a day. So that's for the 2024-25 year, but the rest of the calendars should be accurate. And I think that was it. What Tawana changed was the date of the March PD day. Just moved that by, I think, a couple of weeks. And I know Tawana's here if she wanted to share any other. She's been working on the calendars very hard, among many, many other things. Tawana, is anything you want to share on the calendars? Maybe she just turned on her camera, turned on the computer and went to watch her favorite show. I'm just kidding. No, you wouldn't do that. Tawana's terrific. So anyway, that's what it was. That was, and I think Joan's aware too, if you want to chime in, Joan, but I'm pretty sure that's all it is. And it's actually on the cover page there. Changed the PD day from March 14th to March 21st. Added the PLC, Professional Learning Community Days, Parent-Teacher Conferences to the 2024-25 calendar. And then the last day of school is now June 12th instead of June 10th due to that change with the holiday week there. So still early in the year, and we can set the date, and maybe the state will let us do remote snow days going forward. We'll see what happens after this year. But that's all it was for the calendars. Thank you.
The 21-22 calendar, Becky, was a reapproval. Basically, we just did an outline, and now Tawana put in all the PLC days and everything. So we're going to reapprove it. Okay.
Great. Thank you. So I will ask for a motion for item K, the reapproval of the 2021-22 calendar.
Madam Chairman, I request that we reapprove the 21-22 school calendar as adjusted today.
Okay. Do I get a second?
Second.
Ms. Rebecca, second. Any questions or concerns on those? On that one? I should say. All right. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right. And item, what comes after K?
Yep.
L.
And Madam Chairman, I request that we approve the 22-23, the 23-24, and the 24-25 school calendars as circulated to us today.
Second.
Motion and a second. Thank you. Any questions or concerns on those? All right. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, motion unanimous. Thank you very much. And that brings us to the consent agenda, which does have on it, by the way, a couple of what look like regulations that are just being eliminated. So we usually don't vote on those. I think it's for kind of informational purposes only. So we appreciate that. So if I can get a motion for the consent agenda, unless anybody has anything they want to remove off of there.
Madam Chairman, I request that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Rebecca again, thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. And then our most favorite motion. Who would like-
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Got it. Is there a second?
Second.
All
I
right.
want to abstain.
You want to stay, Foster, if you want to stay on in bed a while, I'm available.
All in favor, please say aye.
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 Thank you.
You gotta have a little humor.
I know, right? All right, thank you all very much. Stay warm. Hopefully we don't have too much shoveling to do tomorrow.
Happy
better
birthday,
not.
Foster.
Yes,
Thanks,
and happy
everybody.
birthday,
Oh,
Foster.
happy birthday,
Oh.
Foster.
Happy
Thank you.
birthday.
Bye, thank you.